Happy Thursday morning to you. Welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. And we are involved in a study of the resurrection of 1 Corinthians 15, a thematic study. And we have covered the ground from verses 1 to 34 of 1 Corinthians 15. We have begun to notice Paul's shift in focus in verse 35. In verses 1 to 34, to a great extent, Paul is discussing who would be raised. There were scoffers at Corinth, denying the resurrection of those who had died before Jesus. I keep repeating this because it is absolutely critical. 99.9% of all commentators say the scoffers at Corinth were denying resurrection, period. For anyone, for everyone. No, they were not. They did not deny their own resurrection. They did not deny resurrection of Christians. They did not deny resurrection of Jesus. Now look, let me say again, if they did not deny that they themselves would be raised, they were not denying resurrection. If they did not deny that Christians would be raised, they're not denying resurrection. If they did not deny the resurrection of Jesus, they were not denying resurrection. They were only denying resurrection life to those who had died before Jesus, of whom Christ was the first to be raised out from among them. Those are just the facts of 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Well, then we come, as we begin to focus in our last video, with verse 35, with Paul, where Paul says, well, someone will say, with what body? Or how are they, that's the dead ones, how are they raised? And with what body do they come? Now, I want to point out something here that is stunning. And Sam Frost, in this book, when he still taught the truth, brings out the power, the force, and the problem of the Greek text that is found here, a problem that some of the world's greatest Greek scholars have and do struggle with. And that problem is this. In verse 35, Paul doesn't say, how are the dead going to be raised? He does not say, and with what body will they come? Paul does not use the future tense. Paul uses the present indicative that is either in the middle or in the passive voice, according to the Greek sources. And do you catch the power of that? That literally has Paul saying, someone will say, how are the dead being raised up? And with what body are the dead being raised up? What? Paul? How could you speak of the resurrection of the dead ones as something already taking place? By the way, you need to know that in no less than 10 times, no less than 10 times in 1 Corinthians 15, Paul uses either the present indicative passive or the simple present indicative to speak of the resurrection of the dead ones. Now, some have argued, well, you know, that's just kind of a nuance of the Greek. Well, wait a minute. Did Paul not know how to use the Greek tenses? If we're going to lightly dismiss Paul's use of the present indicative passive or the present indicative in 1 Corinthians 15, when he is talking about the resurrection of the dead ones, then why can't we just dismiss the rest of the Greek tenses that he uses? Does Paul use a future tense in some places in 1 Corinthians 15? Yes. Well, if we can discount the present indicative passive, why can't we discount the future tenses? I mean, after all, if we're in the business of discounting Greek tenses, and someone will say, as has been said to me on many different occasions, well, it's more than obvious there was not an already resurrection taking place in 1 Corinthians 15, period. Really? It has been argued with me, Paul knows absolutely nothing about an already but not yet resurrection. Really? Do you realize that Dr. Greg Beale, one of the foremost theologians in the world today, citing John chapter 5, 24 and following, says that Jesus believed that Daniel chapter 12, verse 2, the resurrection at the end of the age, out of the dust, had begun. Well, what does John 5 say? The hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of Man and shall come forth. Those who hear the voice of the Son of Man have passed from death to life. There's resurrection. That was a first century reality. Do not marvel at this, for the hour is coming, in which all that are in the grave shall hear the voice of the Son of Man and shall come forth. That's the not yet. We thus have, in Jesus' own words, an already, but a not yet of resurrection. And some people say, well, you know, Jesus changes the focus from spiritual to physical. No, He does not. There's not one single word in John 5, and by the way, there's not one single word in 1 Corinthians 15 to suggest that Paul has a spiritual resurrection of some kind already underway and awaiting a physical resurrection. Not one word. That is a presuppositional concept and idea that is completely foreign to the text. For now, simply grasp the concept, the reality, the undeniable linguistic reality that Paul uses the present indicative passive, something being done to the dead ones, as well as the present indicative to talk about the dead ones already being raised when he wrote 1 Corinthians 15. Now, folks, unless you can point to a whole lot of dead physical bodies coming out of the dirt, then that precludes any idea that Paul has in mind physical resurrection in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Look, what you need to do, you need to get a copy of this book, Exegetical Essays on the Resurrection, in which Sam Frost delineates and discusses. He documents the struggle of great, great scholars with the present indicative passive in 1 Corinthians 15. Excellent linguistic analysis. This is not to be simply sloughed off, lightly dismissed. It raises all sorts of exegetical problems to simply ignore Paul's use of the present indicative passive. Get a copy of this book. Go to my website, eschatology.org or bibleprophecy.com. It's regularly $17.95 plus $4.95 shipping. All right? Contact me and say, Don, I saw the offer of the book on the resurrection, Sam Frost's book. Total price, $15 postpaid. Total price. I'll refund your shipping and the difference. So contact me about this book. Look, this will blow you away to see how powerfully Paul is using the Greek tenses in 1 Corinthians 15 when he says, how then are the dead being raised? Thank you so much for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic weekend. Lord willing, we'll see you on Monday.